So, Governor, I wanted to ask you about a significant decision that you made in the last couple of days. You commuted the sentence of the I-70 truck driver Rogel Aguilera-Moderos from 110 years down to 10 years for that crash that killed 4 people. Judge A. Bruce Jones was in the process of reconsidering the sentence at the time. He just said in a filing that the timing of your decision lacked respect for the judicial process. Why didn't you let it play out before you intervened?
So here's why. This isn't the fault of the judge who passed the sentence. The judge's hands were tied. 100-year sentence, 110-year sentence, mandatory sentencing. Why? Because previous legislature and previous governor signed the law that forced a judge to do that. That was the early 1980s. We can remedy that because it was caused by past governor, past legislature. We can end, and we did, this kind of whole circus and drama around this. And the instructions I gave to my team were very simple. Just research the normal penalty for that crime. And there's a range, of course. Some people serve no time for reckless driving that kills people. Others might serve 10, 12 years. And we simply commuted the sentence to one that, had this been the initial sentence, Kyle, the whole world and wouldn't be talking about it because people would say, yeah, that makes sense.
So you decided 10 years was fair. What did the victims' families ask you for?
I met with the victims' families twice. Like any diverse group, they're all over. I think most of them, frankly, almost all of them, agreed that 110 years was a ridiculous sentence. You'd have to ask each of them individually what they would have wanted. But what's more important is what Colorado gives. We need consistency in our justice system for people to have confidence in our justice system. If one person gets 5 years for a crime that another person gets 50 years for the exact same crime, people start losing confidence in the whole system. So we simply had that lens. How long do people who commit this kind of crime serve? And the answer is it's about 10 years. And I'm sure there's someone who got 5 and someone who got 12, but generally speaking, that's what we do. Whether victims wanted 5 years or 50 years, this is the way we penalize this kind of crime here in our state.
And what did Kim Kardashian West want you to do?
Well, I haven't read all of her tweets. I don't know. There were certainly people that wanted a complete pardoning of the crime. There were people that said it was a faulty vehicle. He shouldn't be held responsible. When you look at the actual facts of the case, there's a certain criminal negligence there about what he should have done driving that resulted in 4 lost lives and significant additional injuries. There is very rarely, although we did find examples of where there is no criminal penalty for that kind of transgression, and that's why we said let's stick with what really we can defend as what anybody who commits this would likely be sentenced to, and hence the 10-year sentence.
And lastly, just to make sure we're clear, you did or you did not speak to her about the case?
Well, look, we heard from a lot of people and input. So I met with the victims' families twice, first and foremost. There were many people that wanted a complete commutation and pardon. There were others that wanted different penalties. At the end of the day, we very simply said, let's make sure that we rectify this unjust law, this mandatory sentencing law from the 1980s that caused a ridiculous result. And probably, as I said, most of the victims, probably 95% of the public agree 110 years, ridiculous result. It's frankly an offense to somebody whose perpetrator gets 20 years for a deliberate murder of their son or daughter to say this other person gets 110 years. It's offensive to many victims to say, why would this one for careless and reckless driving get a worse sentence? So that's what we rectified. We wanted to end this circus around it, end the drama around it, and cut to an end that fixed the problem with the law. And we hope to work with Republicans and Democrats to fix this law. It shouldn't fall to governors to do this sort of thing. We should have the flexibility in the law for judges to have sentences that work regardless of what the prosecutor is seeking.
I understand what you're saying, but why not just answer the question directly? Did you talk to her or not?
Because we heard from a lot of people, Kyle, and we leave it up to the people who shared their thoughts with us about whether they shared enough. I have no problem if different people affected by the crime talk about how they share their viewpoints with me. But from our perspective, we just based our decision on how do we make sure that this penalty is consistent with others in Colorado and inspires confidence in our criminal justice system.
Thank you.
Thank you.